What's up, viewers, subscribers, and agents alike? It's your boy, Light Luciferian Prince, coming at y'all once again. You know what I'm saying? And I'm getting ready to embark upon the path of enlightening y'all on what I call a secret letter from an unknown judge. And what this video details is the specifics of what's going on today in society, and the war machine is powered. And I just want to let you know that this is sponsored by Bojampong. Bojampong, man. These noodles is bomb, man. Like, straight up. They ain't my sponsor, really, but I'll just let y'all know. You go to the farmer's market, like, check this out. You know what I'm saying? Like, these motherfuckers, like, they are the truth. You know what I'm saying? Like, you could take some, you know what I'm saying, some sausage and cut it up in that bitch. You be like, hey, that shit like a steak. Long story short, I'm just bullshit with y'all. As I said before, this is basically a secret letter from an unknown judge. And this is going to be called part 1. It's going to be called A Lesson in Fraud. Now, I'm going to elaborate on certain points, and certain points I'm also going to inform you on what the consensus is in regards to this whole idea. And we're going to just walk each other through the whole idea based on the ideology. And that's just the thing I want people to really get. What you see happening today is not an accident. It has never been an accident. And the people who think that it is an accident are disillusioned to what the reality really is, as opposed to what the planners really decided for you and your future and the future of your family, and ad infinitum. So let's talk about it. Here it is. Due to the historic perversion in expert mind programming, labeled as Babylonian slave driving techniques, which has been adopted and employed by the United States government, few citizens realize that America is not what they perceive it to be. Here's a quotation. Elephants are all gray, but not all gray things are elephants. This expose hopes to reveal to you the great American adventure and some secrets of America, but not all, because there are too many, such as America is not a free country or a constitutional country. Factually, it isn't even a country. America is a privately owned French corporation, and its motive of operation, known as politics, modus operandi, government, courts, laws, currency, and commerce, known as politics, are merely the byproducts of several greedy, vivid, and intellectual imaginations belonging to the royal and the elite of Europe, and controlled with the aid of their foreign agents and slave drivers who act in America under the protection of the Foreign Sovereignty Immunities Act. The success of this private corporation relies heavily upon the ability of the slave drivers, identified as chiefs of staff, politicians, bankers, judges, priests, and lawyers, to convince teachers, policemen, soldiers, and the general public of its authenticity. Two major problems exist for this private corporation because everything that the corporate board of directors, the European royal elite, and the Sabbatean Jewish bankers decide is always recorded somewhere and is accessible with the advent of new technological advances. Even some of those files marked top secret are accessible with little help from your friends. Those people who know I deal with the dark web, we already get it. How you think I got this? And ironically, the only secrets being concealed within those files is their treason, history, and new technological advances being withheld from public view. History is a fable agreed upon. Napoleon Bonaparte. Would it interest you to know that historically, every documented skirmish, global catastrophe, and war that ever occurred on Earth since ancient Babylon has been a well-planned and staged event, orchestrated by the royal elite and classes of the world with a focus in mind, crowd population control, and the stimulation of commerce. After all, the European Board of Directors makes their money off of commerce, and unfortunately, wars and catastrophes generate more income and spending than tranquility and peace. Do they care that people might die? Like all sociopaths, they actually plan on it. What would be your first reaction if I were to prove to you that 2 elected presidents of the United States were never American citizens and were elected under an alias or assumed name? The first man was a German national, an atheist, and former Nazi SS naval officer, and the former director of the Nazi intelligence agency called Odessa. The second man was a South African national and is a Marxist, a racist, and anti-Christian. We already know who that is. This is a disparaging fact to hear or read about, especially since colonial America was founded by so-called Christian people seeking freedom from a so-called religious persecution. People who just wanted to be left alone, which made them an easy mark for unscrupulous men. Would it interest you to know that the first CIA agency for the United States was completely staffed with the former Nazi SS and OSA officers with the blessings of President Harry S. Truman and the United States Congress, and he placed a World War II ace, Wild Bill Donovan, in a figurehead position as director in order to sell to the CIA to the American public? Would it shock you or even concern you to learn that the Patriot Act is a carbon copy of the Nazi Constitution of the 1940s? History suggests that the Allies defeated the Nazi war machine, but in fact Churchill and Hitler were close friends and Masonic brothers. Queen Elizabeth called Adolf Hitler uncle, and Adolf's real name was Baron Rothschild, and he was a member of the European royal family. Didn't you ever wonder why the Queen's royal palace was never touched during the Nazi aerial bombing of England? Two investigative journalists uncovered these facts, and when they attempted to expose Churchill and Elizabeth, they were arrested and in prison for 33 years. 33 years without formal charges or a trial. Shortly after the World War II Germans surrendered, the government of the United States secretly repatriated 155,000 Nazi SS and OSA officers into the United States in 1945 under Operation Paperclip. And the average immigrant to America today is forced to suffer all kinds of hurdles, pitfalls, prejudices, and propaganda to finally be accepted under U.S. immigration laws. Immigration laws that countermand the basic principles and guarantees of the Declaration of so-called independence. How would you feel about President George W. Bush if you knew that he issued 2 executive orders as president, which 1, made all American presidents the official dictator of America, and 2, permits the pharmaceutical companies to release new drugs and vaccines to the public without performing the usual battery of safety food tests? This same executive order also releases the Food and Drug Administration of any liability for approving such pharmaceuticals and vaccines for distribution and sale to the general public. Would it interest you to know that all but 4 U.S. presidents and 98% of all of our so-called U.S. congressmen have been serving as political decoys and official slave drivers for the European royal and elite masses? The cost of campaigning for election to this office of president for the seat of Congress has intentionally been made untouchable and exorbitant in cost, except for millionaires. The purpose and intent is to discourage the average American citizen from overstepping his so-called class boundaries in an attempt to secure one of these political posts. There's a huge disparaging class difference in America. Would you feel just a little bit ignorant to learn that the Republican and Democrat Party is just another political fraud, and that these political parties are actually the product of one large political conspiracy? All of these candidates chosen for the highest positions in government are not chosen by party members or the public, but are pre-selected by the royal elite. And each approved candidate must swear an allegiance to and render a pledge to adhere to the demands of these corporate directors and masters. Your so-called right to vote in America is actually about slave registration, which I told you before. Every applicant is asked if they are a United States citizen or other. A U.S. citizen is defined in all law dictionaries as a corporate entity. Your vote really means nothing during an election because the electronic voting machines are rigged. The manual tabulation process was eliminated by George Bush versus Gore elections as unreliable and besides the Electoral College actually chooses the candidates regardless of the vote count. This was the real reason behind the creation of the Electoral College. The whole Bush versus Gore event that occurred in Florida was a well-planned and staged event to eliminate the paper ballot cards and manual tabulation. The use of racist remarks and displays of racism is also planned by the royal elite to divert attention away from their true purpose. Remember that. Racism is used heavily and well in America to divert the attention of the masses because most of us are very easily distracted. The real truth is that there is no difference between the masses, but as a collective group. the slave drivers couldn't control us as a whole, and so racism is used to divide and conquer. As I said before in my previous video, to divide and conquer so-called people who call themselves citizens as slaves. The federal government is using modes of operations to cause a problem, blow it out of proportion in the media, and then provide for and adopt a remedy that only they can control. This is never the exception, but rather the rule, and each time a little more of our humanity and liberty is subtly stolen by government without the public ever taking notice of it. Most people are easily entertained and distracted, which is one of the same reasons why people are so fascinated with magicians and hypnotists, and you people who go to these YouTube channels and you subscribe to these other people. America's judiciary are smaller corporate branches called courts. The judges are actually business administrators called judges, and all of America's laws are civil corporate regulations called statutes. People are treated as corporations in these courts, and these so-called bastions of justice are all about commerce and fraud. Everyone needs to be on the same page, and so presidents become their safety benchmark. The next question doesn't constitute any proof, but think about it. If American judges truly are the good guys, why don't they all wear white robes instead of black? The answer is because black is the pagan traditional color for Illuminati priests, which make more sense to you as you read on through this expose. The local police and prosecutors are not in place to serve and protect the American public, but on the contrary, they are to structure to protect the slave drivers in the private United States corporation by enforcing its corporate statutes against the corporate enemy, the American citizen. Most of these police officers haven't a clue about how they have been indoctrinated and manipulated. They are so naive and well-meaning that they actually believe they are preserving and protecting the public. The politicians, prosecutors, judges, priests, and clerks know the truth, and many of them increase their personal spoils with every conviction. Yes, the Vatican judges, prosecutors, and clerks make money off of every conviction and lawsuit, and their clearinghouse for all of these private spoils is located in the Texas Federal Reserve under an account titled the Chris Fund. If our police officers would simply invest a little energy and time to research and read something other than Playboy or Popular Mechanics, or to hoist the shoe at the local public police pub, they would discover that the amended version of the Trading with the Enemies Act of 1933 by Franklin Delano Roosevelt specifically identifies the American citizen as the enemy of the federal government. The fraud and deception perpetuated by these slave drivers worked well, as long as they can maintain their deception and manipulation over the masses. In fact, and in reality, the historic civilian government promised by the Constitution of the United States of America never existed, nor did it have a chance of succeeding, courtesy of President so-called George Washington and Continental Congress, who was a Mason himself. President so-called George Washington, the reputed father of our country, cleverly overthrew the organic Constitution of the United States of America using Articles of Confederation, and reinstated the privately owned colonial corporation of the Virginia colony. He installed a military government which is concealed in plain sight. Example, Commander-in-Chief, Attorney General, Secretary General, Auditor General, Surgeon General, Postmaster General, etc. The Constitution was a well-written document which was copied from the Iroquois Federation government. Many of the safeguards found in the organic Constitution were added by the Founding Fathers to bind the hands of other delegates because none of them trusted each other, which proves the old proverb that there is no honor amongst thieves. I bet you never knew that American Indians were governed by an emperor named Moitoi. Take a look right there in the back. Which were falsely taught that the red race were just savages. The Iroquois Indians are the architects of the universal postal system of the world. And I bet you never knew that the red race of America are the only known living descendants of the continent of Atlantis, which sunk into the Atlantic Ocean around 9,600 BC. The overthrow of the Constitution by President Washington was so-called no real loss to America because the Constitution had actually been converted into a business plan designed to benefit the founding so-called fathers and not the American people. This information may not correspond with the material that was pounded into your so-called brain during your forced public education because it is a fact nonetheless. America factually continued to operate under the privately owned corporation of the Virginia colony until March 9, 1933, and then that corporation was dissolved by Franklin Delano Roosevelt upon the passage of the Emergency Banking Act of April 5, 1933, at which time he instituted a new privately owned corporation called the United States, Inc., which is registered in France and recorded under the Vatican Corporation of Rome. Now, isn't that a perplexing situation? The term United States of America never got off the ground and is a fictitious name fraudulently used by the so-called slave masters and drivers because it conforms to the name, educational, and same material that society has been indoctrinated with, and because it appeases the ears and minds of the patriotic public. But it's all just another corporate provocation. America was guaranteed a public education, but never guaranteed a truthful education, as so-called Shakespeare once wrote, and therein lies the rub. Factually, the concept of government institution known as the United States of America has not existed since the passage of the Declaration of Independence, which had no legal effect whatsoever. However, the elite slave drivers have cleverly convinced the American public that this is all real by creating and celebrating national holidays, by erecting monuments, by adopting national anthem and flag, by fictionalizing history, by propagating a false freedom and forcing this indoctrination upon society through mandatory public education, which are called the public full system. According to the Articles of Confederation, the phrase "we the people" is defined to mean "we the delegates," which refers only to the politicians and not the public, which proves again that the Constitution of the United States of America was never intended to protect or serve the American public. There were several clearly administrative court rulings which confers this to the same conclusion. For those of you who require something more than common sense and this educated opinion or observation, let's talk about it. Everything in America is about contracts, and it is our burden as Americans to make governments perform honorably, to be specific, and to prohibit them from changing the meaning of common words, which is referred to in their circle of friends as legalese. The American Bar Association is a foreign union, and its members are all working in collusion with Israel, the British Empire, the Vatican, the Rothschild and Rockefeller banking empires, Congress, and the elite to undermine America. All attorneys are agents of a foreign power who swear allegiance to that foreign power, i.e., the so-called Queen of England. This is why all lawyers must file a written notice of appearance in every court case they represent. By that notice, the lawyer is admitting to the court that he or she is a foreign agent and that he or she is requesting permission to represent you in that corporate court. Your contract with the lawyer gives him your sovereign power of attorney to represent your best interest, and he immediately uses it against you by admitting to the judge that you will accept the jurisdiction and the decisions of the corporate court. So much for winning your case on any appeal, if you have a lawyer. When a prosecutor loses a trial, he is obligated by the court to pay the cost of prosecution out of pocket. Your attorney always divulges your defense strategy to the prosecutor to avert this embarrassment and penalty from being assigned to him. This group is a brotherhood, and these corporate courts are a business, and everything is about commerce. People are regarded as nothing more than corporate property. The American Bar Association is actually a branch of the National Lawyers Guild Communist Party, which can also be located in a hard copy printing of 28 United States Code 3002, Section 15A. The online version of Title 28 has been altered by the Attorney General to read something entirely different. Apparently because this fact has recently showed up in too many private court petitions and memorandums of law. To become a member of the American Bar Association, applicants must have obtained a doctorate in law or the equivalent thereof and have passed an examination designed to test the depth of their indoctrination. If they pass, they are required to surrender their American citizenship and swear allegiance to the Queen of England and not the Constitution. This means that all card-carrying American lawyers are foreign agents, liars, traitors, and communists. No wonder the Messiah warned us about lawyers. The privately owned corporate Federal Reserve System, debt, has cleverly been renamed the national debt to suggest that this is rather an American public debt. However, it's not America's debt, but rather Israel's debt and the private Federal Reserve's corporate debt, and yet we have been deceived into thinking and believing the complete opposite by the corporate so-called slave drivers through their use of patriotic slogans like, "This is the cost of freedom." If you want more proof, check the fine print of your savings or checking account contract. You will discover that each time you open one of these accounts, you will agree to be responsible for the repayment of the national debt under Title 26. Now, why would that language ever be included in the application for a checking or savings account if the national debt already was our responsibility? The answer is so that the banks may confiscate your assets without further permission. Pretty clever on their part, if I would say so. Genius, but evil genius nonetheless. Check it out. Would it interest you to know that the FCC, CIA, FBI, IMF, NSA, IRS, OPM, ATF, DEA, NASA, Interpol, and Homeland Security, and all other members of the Alphabet Gang are privately owned corporations, and none of them are or ever have been an agency of the United States, Inc.? The United States government always held some stock in these corporations, but never outright owned or controlled any of them. Their employees receive their paychecks from OPM, which belongs to the IMF, which is an International Monetary Fund, which is the property of the United Nations, which belongs to Israel and the royal elite and class of so-called Europe. All the alphabet gangs are now registered property of the United Nations, which is why I said put that as the debtor on your form, on your UCC1, people. It is no wonder that President Wilson's League of Nations never got off the ground, and that out of 267 nations on the earth, only 71 are members of the United Nations. All of this deception is compounded by the refusal of ordinary Americans to realize, know, or understand that this is secrecy and duplicity, or privately owned corporations being surreptitiously portrayed as American agencies in government, coupled with the deceit and endless greed of Israel, European bankers, and the royal so-called elite families of the world that have come together to fleece the American people like the sheep. They have truly and unfortunately and have misled America's public by their apathy and ignorance only serves to reinforce their lie. This expose hopes to expose many of the secrets of America, but unfortunately not all of them. A few references have been suggested or offered to you to investigate on your own if you are so inclined. If you strongly disagree with anything I have so to say, great. Now that I am not proven to be wrong, but be careful how you react, because we as so-called patriotic Americans have been taught from an early age to simply deny without proof anything that contradicts the imaginary template defined as the American way of life. I happen to know that everything that will be discussed herein is factual, and I grant you these secrets of America will not be easy to digest, because deception never is, and it's an easy pill for anyone to swallow. If ignorance truly is bliss, you certainly can choose to remain apathetic and ignorant, or you can decide to grow up and become to digest some hardcore reality. Some of your best friends may be lawyers, judges, and politicians, and unfortunately they are all a part of the lie, and they are all sworn an oath to propagate the lie and deny the truth. So you may need to do some soul searching and investigation on your own. Sometimes, at most points, it was hard for me to accept too. Those who do not know their past are condemned to repeat it. George Santayana. Offer as a prologue the most objective of original information I have discovered coming from origin of an ancient system of crowd and mind control called Babylonian slave driving techniques, and its historic application and effects upon the European and American culture were researched by a group of Asian historians. All of what they discovered is extremely germane in understanding the secrets of America, and its information helps to set the stage for this great American adventure. The following is a brief synopsis of the research, which I have condensed, utilizing my knowledge, experience, and comprehension of their systematic investigation, and I have included several small details in that synopsis which I haven't covered during my many years of research. I warn you that most Asian people believe in a deep spirituality, more so than any religious dogma, miracles, or so-called human gods, and that such Christian beliefs will be treated by them with such indifference. I apologize now if I intend to repeat myself at times or go off on tangents throughout the body of this paper, but unfortunately I find it most difficult not to, when each timeline event or topic lends itself to further qualitative or quantifiable data. Pause. I'll stop there. The reason why I wanted to put this out here online, people, is because what's going on in society is clearly engineered. Whether or not you believe that concept, whether or not you really understand sociological engineering techniques or how these things apply to the sociological purpose, it's your fault for falling along the wayside. What you see going on with this whole race ideology, this whole so-called George Floyd thing, let me tell you something. You get caught up in that stuff, you have to realize that it's a political agenda. Everyone that wants to seek office is going to use that to further catapult themselves into a political career. You don't care if the situation really happened, and you don't really know if it really happened. You know? You really don't. And the sad fact is that because things have been placed before you on face value, you accept it as a genuine truth. Yes, that truth eventually becomes your reality because you feed into it. You believe in your heart of hearts that something took place that has been happening since the inception of this country. Why do you find it so appalling and so shocking that one individual perished, but hundreds of millions of indigenous people were slaughtered by the hands of these same people, and you don't see any variance with that? And some of you same people protesting are going to go celebrate Thanksgiving later on this year. You have a real, very serious case of cognitive dissonance, which means that you're never coming in line with your own reality. You're letting someone else or something else divert you from the real attention. See, this is the reason why I call myself Enlightened Luciferian Prince, because I know for a fact that on my channel, what I do is I oppose that system. I oppose it wholeheartedly and full-fledged. Why? Because it's not right. See, the real system is to get back to the Creator and to get back to your idea and your consensus and your conscious contact with your Creator. Stop looking at these channels for these so-called demigods. You know what I'm saying? These people who give you a false proposition of something they want you to believe works and it doesn't. You have to look into yourself for the answer. The answer is in you. If what I'm saying doesn't resonate with you, then you've been pre-programmed and already determined for destruction. Serious. You know? And it is what it is. It's your reality. It's what you choose to have for yourself. But that doesn't mean that you have to go by a certain specific design. You don't. See, the sun rises, the sun sets. Man didn't do that. You go to sleep, you rise. Man didn't do that. You have being. Man did that, gave you being, but the Creator gave you life. And remember that. But most people, they fall into the beast system and they feel like, filing all these forms and these civics and all these things that these people propose to you are the most vital importance to you living a happy life. No, it's not. It's coming back into focus of self. And those people who contacted me who actually have received Luciferian doctrine, listen, I haven't heard from those people ever again. Now, do I mean that they're all well-being, all well-knowing people? No, I don't. But guess what? It's a doctrine that you cannot taint and you cannot in any instance ruin it because it's going to come back on you. And you can't sell it because that's just the way it was written in the manuscript. But this is the way it is. I slipped past perception so much that people didn't realize that I even changed my name from 2.0 to 2.5. You weren't paying attention. You see what I'm saying? Just that quick. Boom. But at the same token, I share this knowledge and I actually want to expound upon certain subjects in the future because I want people to know more now than at any other time in history that you need to wake up. If you're alive and you're looking at me and you're living in the same time and existence that I am, guess what? You got work to do. And whether or not you wish to do it is on you, because whether you choose to get better or to get worse, you better do it quick because it's going to happen, irrespective of what you believe. Straight up. Those people who contact me who actually wish to receive the, so what I call the light in regards to their idea of what redemption is, please contact me. People who I contact before in emails, I'm not going backwards. I'm only moving forward, straight. And that's all I could ever do. Progress. It's energy and positive energy at that. So let me explain something to people before I decide to cut it off and to just proceed with the rest of my day, because I overextended this because it's lunchtime now, my time. The truth is, people, you need to wake up. And you better wake up to a very serious consciousness that you have more rewarded to you at this present time in history than in any other time. This is the time that prophets wish to live for. They foresaw it, but they never lived to see it. You're here now. You're here. So now you have more of a vital chance, a viable chance to say, hey, I can actually contribute to my lifestyle now. Not no fucking constitution, no document, fuck all of that. That's a sham. That's what they want to purport to you, to make you believe that people that are melanated, that you don't have rights. Bitch, man can't give you rights. Just like you have a right to go, take a squat, go eat what you want. Don't look at no fucking legislature to make you believe that you actually have to petition these people to get something that you already were born with. What the fuck is wrong with y'all? You were born with that. You were born with it. And guess what? When you align yourself with the Creator's purpose, guess what happens? They shift. They get the hell on. They don't come around. That stuff does not deal with you. But y'all keep going on these channels. Y'all keep going searching these other people, these doctrines. And let me tell you something. On my channel, it's the doctrine of light. It's freedom. It's awareness. It said, let there be light. And so. And the Creator seen it was good. So light is good. Light is great. Light is fantastic. I was born from the light. First to step out of it. That's where I got my melanin from. First child of the universe. And I don't pay attention to none of this shit that these people got going on because I know it's all a big ass distraction. Some of you people need to really wake up and get down to the consensus that what you're facing is you're facing it because sometimes you just need to be shaken up to be waking up. Straight. That's the only way you're going to be waking up. And now, the war machine is here, motherfucker. Sponsored by Pt.1. Yeah. I know they can't stand me. I don't give a fuck, but I don't do nothing illegal. It'd be different if I did dumb shit. And if I was a statistical, proverbial, melanated individual who was out there doing, listen, I don't do this shit. This is what I do. And I love doing what I do because it helps me live my values. And those to whom it is given, it is to be given for that particular reason. And those to whom it is not to be given, it is what it is. You'll figure it out. Sooner or later, I hope you do. And if you don't, I won't see you next lifetime because I'll be progressing somewhere else. Steadily motivating and maturing in the spiritual non-complexity of evolution of soul, mind, and spirit. Simple. Y'all can have it how you want. That's why I said you don't have to agree with me. And most people who actually come on these channels, like mine particularly, they want to leave spam in the comments. Trust me, we'll take you out. You know what I'm saying? We'll take you out. Like I'll roll with a positive energy. Nothing evil comes around me. Nothing at all. Nothing. I don't even invite it in my personal life. So you can try, but I wish you well. I bid you very well. I bid you well. Straight. Other than that, that's how I leave it off. And particularly, it's just a simple fact that I'm not going to stop doing what I do. Peace. Love y'all. And agents, it's lunchtime, bitch. It's lunchtime, motherfucker. Get off my motherfucking airwaves. Y'all take care. Hit my email, people, and further inquiries and agents. I'm not responding, period. Take care.